Hello, everyone. Welcome to our peer-to-peer sessions, monthly sales strategies, press kits, promotions, PSAs, and advertising with Paula Robinson Deare. My name is Hendrik Hernandez Resto. I am the creative specialist at New Bedford Creative. Thank you for joining us today. Before I go any further, please enter your first and last name in the chat along with your email for our records. Thank you very much. Peer-to-peer series is geared to enrich, educate, and connect creatives within our community. New Bedford is the home of artists, creatives, changemakers, designers, entrepreneurs, and community enthusiasts. The peer-to-peer sessions embraces the pulse that makes New Bedford so unique, while also expanding our knowledge and connections. New Bedford Creative offers many opportunities for artists and cultural organizations. Join our creative directory, apply for one of our grants or call to arts, list your event on our calendar, all for free at our website, newbedfordcreative.org. Peer-to-peer sessions is supported in part by the City of New Bedford through its American Rescue Plan Award and Arts, Culture, and Tourism Fund, facilitated by New Bedford Creative at the New Bedford Economic Development Council. We would like to thank Mayor John Mitchell, his administration, and the entire New Bedford City Council for their continued support of the creative sector. This is just one component of a broader initiative to boost arts-based economic development and help the creative sector recover from the pandemic. Before I introduce our presenter, I want to go over the format for this session. Once I'm done, I will pass it over to Paula. Once Paula is finished, we will open up for Q&A. I will review the questions in the chat first, and we can continue with the Q&A live. We will have about 20 minutes for questions so we can wrap up by 2 p.m. Just so everyone aware, this session will be recorded. Please feel free to put your questions in the chat so we don't miss them when we open up for Q&A. Most sessions throughout the series have been recorded and can be found on our YouTube channel at New Bedford Creative in the following week. I would like to introduce our guest speaker, Paula Robinson Deare, who will teach us what they know regarding the myriad of topics that intertwine to create for better results within marketing and promotion. Now I will pass it over to Paula to share the details of who she is and what she will present for us today. Go for it, Paula. I am muting myself now.
Okay, thank you so much, Hendrik. I always feel so special when you introduce me like that. So today I put a different title on the slides, but it's all basically the same. Sales strategies for competing in a global world. And you'll see as I title, the titles from the written piece comes up. I also on the last slide will have the website link for you to download, and all of these slides will be sent to the participants in this class. Okay, so basically, in order to understand sales strategies, marketing, all of it is about really defining your target client and the nuances that make your target client special. And this is a chart that basically, this is a real chart that I did looking at New Bedford when we first came down as part of an E4All event. I participated in E4All, which is a good program. I would recommend anybody try it. And I looked at who the folks are on the South Coast by city and town. It's very easy information to find. And to look up the population of the total city, the number of women, because I was looking at working with women, the ethnic mix, because I really wanted to understand how ethnicity makes up the city of New Bedford and the surrounding cities, and the per capita income, which is very different from Boston, where I came. I've been hearing different things about different cities, but it's not as high as for some cities as you might think, particularly for women. But you can also look at age, ethnicity itself, as in specific ethnicity outlines, lifestyle, education, and so on. You can, so this is just the beginning of getting to know who you serve. And I like to work with spreadsheets, whether I do it in Excel or if I just create a table in Microsoft Office or Microsoft Word or any software application that allows you to create tables. And so you really kind of want to meet your prospective clients, consumers, customers, where the interests are. So if you don't know who you want to serve, say you're selling art, we used as one of the models in our last, or carrot soup, we used as a possible model in the last discussion. And in my case, it's journals or music. You might try starting to attend pop-up events, marketplaces, activity centers, clubs, spiritual occasions. Like down here, they do these tremendous feasts, which are spiritual, but it's also very public. And artist celebrations, conferences, member activity showcases, award ceremonies, tourist events. And that's just to kind of name a few of the kinds of things that are going on, but they happen everywhere. Okay, to find out, okay, who would buy what you're selling, okay, and trying to really get a bead on who they are. The other thing you want to look at is when they buy. So you want to understand enough about your customers to know when to offer your products to whom. So, and you want to master how to announce them, the deadlines of putting the application for announcement in, and then what those solutions are. You need to understand what advertisement fits the target that you're trying to reach. When I work with homeless veterans in Boston on this thing called Stand Down, we had a decent budget to work with because some of it was federal funds. And we said, well, we should probably think about doing a TV advertisement. But in our committee meetings, they were saying, well, homeless people don't watch TV. So, okay, so we know that we want the actual people themselves to attend. What medium they use? Well, they don't really read newspapers either because it's too much for them to carry. But homeless veterans listen to transistor radios. So we found the most popular radio stations for homeless and we advertised there. The other thing, when we thought about doing flyers for this group, they said, don't do a big sheet of paper, fold it in half and do these half flyers because they carry what's in their pockets. They're not going to carry a big sheet of paper. They won't be able to read it. So if you can do either a postcard or a half flyer, that will stay with them. And those things made a big difference. For instance, the other thing that we did was billboards because they're public, and we found that they take trains, often the trains were offered for free. And so we did train announcements and we did bus placards on the sides of buses. And that really worked we got 600 people in attendance when the time came. So, part of your advertising, you want to talk about what it is that they gain. So you want to announce your milestones and new products, but you also want to announce what services, what do they gain by attending. And you'll see how I did this in a press release, which the links will be available at the end and at the end of the presentation. So by sharing your information with friends, family, associates, and request feedback, if you don't have a committee or a board, you can measure what you've got, what they're asking for, and find something in between. The other thing is you want to consider if you have a connected group that you're trying to reach, through your online venues, then you might consider constant contact. A number of people down here use Facebook, particularly older folks, and LinkedIn, etc. Okay, so then when you're putting your products to market, you want to think, okay, so what's happening in the area that everybody celebrates and where my target market is most likely to go. So you can chart out, I just put a few of the months on there, but there are all kinds of monthly events. There's Grandparents' Day. There's, I have Labor Day on it. I don't think I have Veterans Day on here, but Veterans Day and Flag Day. But yeah, there's all kinds of events. So you want to list those within your month to find out, okay, if I'm selling flags and I want to get ready for Flag Day, how long is it going to take me to get the product to market? And you work backward. What is it going to cost? How much do I need to save? How much do I need to store? How many products do I want to sell to make all of this worth it? And you work backwards to find out when you start. When I did this organizational event with homeless veterans, we started 9 months in advance. And to tell you the truth, we needed all 12 months, but the team was big enough to make it happen. Also on the bottom of this slide, I have more services through Wikipedia, has the social networking services, but also on your, if you just Google monthly holidays, you'll find all kinds of things going on. I went in the wrong direction. Let's go forward. All right, so this was something that I've been working on for a number of years. How do you predict what you can sell to what kind of people? And then how do you decide when to go from local to regional to global, and whether or not you can put up the funds and or serve a larger marketplace? Well, this worked for me. I deal with educational materials, and often the training that I do is primarily workforce development. I've done workforce development, teacher training, small business development, those kinds of things. And so all of those types of trainings typically work around uh, uh, economic transitions. As a matter of fact, almost all customers are affected by economic transitions, because if they don't have money, they can't afford to buy. So this is something I thought would be helpful for you to look at the history, 210 years of agricultural and farming that was replaced by simple machinery. So then the Industrial Revolution, we had people went into the factories by the millions, and then for about 100 years, and then early machinery in the 80s began to be replaced. It was in the 70s, but by the 80s, almost all the factories were closing down because computers could do the work of hundreds of people. So you only needed 1 or 2 people to run a computer. And then as the technology revolution came in, there was about 30 years where computers could just 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, employers didn't have to pay pensions. So they were laying off people, or the auto industry laid off, telephone operators were laid off, cashiers, factory workers. I mean, everywhere people were sort of disappearing from these jobs. And an interesting thing happened. A couple of interesting things that happened. One is this spread to this information economy as the web developed between 1995 and 2007. And it went through several phases of being Web 1, Web 2. They didn't call it that, but I'm calling it that. And now we have high-speed phone service with 5 gigabytes or 10 gigabytes. It doesn't matter. It's fast, and now you can buy online. And so there's been this whole information revolution where people are coming out of the woodworks to correct books and to put things online and to make things available, like dictionaries and encyclopedias and so forth and so on, so that people can use the information, particularly in education, because education and military are driving these changes. They're the first ones to use this connected technology because it means, as is business. So it means that they don't have to travel. So then you're looking at 2008 to 2018, this global integration became, and this was before COVID, became important because now you have, where they used to take an office full of people and put them on a plane and send them somewhere, now you have meetings that are networked and they can meet with each other and they don't have to travel, so they're saving all of this money. But and things are changing. But the thing that emerged as people were getting laid off, they had more creative time. And so you started to have this art economy that started to evolve, where this writer for, I think he wrote for the New York Times, Richard Florida, but he was a professor at one of the major universities, wrote a couple of books called Rise of the Creative Class, because as people were getting left off, laid off, there was a whole trend of people that now had time to be makers, and they stopped having to rely on corporations, major corporations, and you saw all of these small businesses developing all across the country, where people went back to making things, and craftspeople and artists of all different kinds, where even in New Bedford, we have an art economy that has evolved. And I think that that's here to stay. And that's wonderful as part of the global integration network, because now with companies like Amazon and some of the other big companies, you can sell online. So we're looking at not just experiences where you can have meetings and share ideas, but you can also sell food, art, and cultural experiences, and so on. And then the predictor for me, as I look at the future, I'm looking at, okay, so now you have a lot of people being laid off. You have people that have been neglected over a period of time. You have indigenous people coming from all over that have been basically abused, where land was stolen and everything. And in many cases, culture was stolen. So you have these global alliances between the United Nations and the international libraries that are creating these international laws that are saying indigenous people need to own and be respected for their contributions to the earth, because in places around the world where you have indigenous populations, the earth is healthier. And we need to recognize those contributions, as well as the contributions of the art that their ancestors have made. And so these major corporations, major governments have started returning huge amounts of art to different countries, just as gestures of ambassadorial relationships. And then the United Nations, groups that are tied to the United Nations, are coming out with laws around people owning the rights to their culture and being able to profit from their culture. And that's a big deal. And we've started doing some publications around that, because what it means, particularly for African Americans, recently found out I was Cape Verdean, but I grew up African American. It means that we can go back and correct some of the stories. All people in the United States who have African American roots didn't necessarily come out of, all of their ancestors didn't either begin or come out of slavery. Yes, many did, and I'm sure my ancestors did as well, and we're trying to put that together. But on my mother's side of the family, I know for a fact that they come out of Nova Scotia, and that those stories need to be put in the school books in school. Stories about Jewish and Asian and all the other cultures were never in the multicultural books. They contributed very small amounts. I think Martin Luther King got like 2 paragraphs, in the books when my kids were in school. And so all of these things are making a big difference, and I think that will continue to the future. So as we look at human services, science, STEAM for science, technology, engineering, art, and math, and engineering, I think, is really going to be more like education, but yes, as makers. And then I think we're also looking at this whole cultural economy. So we're looking at an art economy, cultural economy, a human services economy. And so you have to figure out where your customer base is going to be with all of these things happening, and how that breaks down for you as a model. And so all of that to say, understand how, why, where, and when customers will seek out what you sell. What gap do you fill in the industry? or in the competition that you align with, and you want to review your product service history to predict the future of your widest distribution. And I'm looking at working with women and educators, women in business and educators and artisans. And so I think that that's going to be my widest distribution. And that may be narrowed down to specific cultures, specific cities, specific income groups. I don't know, but that's how that works. Okay, so analysis and proof will give you global expertise. It's not that hard. It does take time though. So with cell phones and computers that brought the world of diverse people, cultures, and traditions to our doorstep, this is the same world we once paid extensively to travel. So take a year or 3, explore the frontier. Don't feel like it has to be done tomorrow. You want to grow and weed your social networks, investigate prospective clients, because you're looking at growing your business, your art. I like the way Hendrik says it, entrepreneurship for your lifetime. So, in your retirement, even if you're only doing it part-time. My career was with, started with modeling, went into broadcast with print, radio, and television, kind of in that order. And then retired when Fox was sold back to Rupert Murdoch to stop my nonprofit. And then I played around with a wide variety of ideas and did all kinds of things, earned income. But now as I'm retired, I've settled into sort of working with specific groups because I've figured, more or less figured it out. You also want to protect your research, your copyright, patent, trademark, and then you all really want to understand your web market share. Okay, so about how many people are in these target markets that you're looking at. Is it something that you can look at for, I'm sorry, it's very humid, I have to wipe my face. Is it something that you're looking at that will allow you to focus in one region, or are you going to have to move around because the regions become depleted, or is it seasonal based on people traveling or you needing to travel? I mean, how does your market move? How does your target market move? When I look at my own, I know mine is kind of school season, even whether I look at teachers, instructors, even entrepreneurs. So entrepreneurs are probably busiest during the holidays and during the summer, because during the summer is when all the events happen that allow them to be out, and the holidays are when everybody's trying to shop and buy. Okay, and school season is for teachers and instructors. So I figured that part out. But for your specific market, there are going to be seasons as well. And you need to figure out when your downtime is going to be so you can take some rest and you can get to what you hadn't been able to get to when everything was so busy. One more time. Okay. So what vendor markets can use your inventory or services? You want to align with the ones that sort of best model you. Etsy, MagCloud is the magazine service that I use. Amazon is one. What do they need? What do you or your customers need to make a purchase, and or what do you need to deliver whatever it is that you're getting ready to sell? I had some friends that I work with, these 3 social workers presented to a group of 5,000 social workers their new construct of post-traumatic slavery disorder, and I helped them put it together in a publication. And at the event, they sold 500 before they could even get out the door. They couldn't believe how people were just coming out and grabbing them. So then they wanted to turn around and publish a book. So then they didn't work with me to publish the book. They went ahead and published it elsewhere, which, it was on them to do. So then what they did was they ordered like 5,000 copies of the book, and they were going around with the books in the trunk of their car and selling them for the trunk of their car. I don't want to do that. I like the idea, like MagCloud sells one magazine at a time. They give you a link to the website. You want to buy, I upload my things to MagCloud and let them handle it. it's worth whatever they're charging, and they're very reasonable for that specific task. And I know that photography groups have similar, music groups have similar, Amazon does similar, and so on. Plus, they can safely manage finances. You don't have to worry about false banking. You don't have to worry about people invading your website. There's a lot of safety measures that protect you and the customer from fraudulent activities. So you want to visit world news sites to look at customers, see the economics from different sides of the globe. Don't just listen to what's happening in popular media. Most of it's just crazy talk. You know, one of the things, if you understand the way the news works, the news is designed to just shout and shout and shout and shout and shout to get people to listen. Well, if I shout about, you know, going to the market, nobody's going to listen. So what happens is they stretch the stories and stretch the stories and stretch and stretch and stretch. And then by the time they shout it, you know, there's nothing, there's dust, there's nothing in the story that's real. So when you do your online research, you want to make sure you're looking at reliable sources. You want to make sure that you're going beyond Wikipedia, which I absolutely adore, to back it up with census data, back it up with definitely with news stories, but back it up with some of the government websites who are, you know, you know, you want to have a reliable resource. That's why I say take a year for one thing to look at, but take 3 years and really, really look at how to expand into the global marketplace. All right, so and keep a running spreadsheet of the metrics that you find, put them in a 30-year plan and use that to chart in around your industry, your field, and your profession. And I'm going to give you an example of a couple of those as we move on. So industry, field, professional evolution. So what changes are happening? So this is how I set up a couple of charts. I did the year to the left, and I could do it by week, you know, 24, 25, 26, and I have these going back 20 years. And I can look at what's happening, how it's affected, what I was doing then, and how that impacts. And you can make predictions when you go for a loan at the bank. They ask you to put a 3-year business plan together. You have to make predictors in the plan. This gives you an idea of how you can begin to digest what predictors are and how to look at them using the earlier chart that I showed you that takes you through different economic trends. So charting your consumer needs, how you're going to be able to meet those needs with sales, looking at seasonal behaviors, including competition. Those will help you understand your customer behaviors and allow you to initiate when and how to take the lead in the marketplace. And by the lead, you know, it's if you can be first without being false, you know, to come out and say something, that gives you a definite advantage because everybody else has to quote from you, or at least if they're honest, they will, you know, and that sort of pushes your information ahead. And that's an important part of building reputation and brand, which we covered in the first series. Knowing your industry, field, profession will also help you create outreach plans, campaigns, seasonal events, and other showcase opportunities for those who you want to provide services for. So, who offers what you're missing? So when you're looking at your competition, you want to look at or the organizations that are in your region and or that you have access to. So I put my organization in the middle, eWorkStyle Institute. So if I look at it like this, what are the large medium, who are the nonprofits, who are the large businesses, who are the, you know, what corporate support can I get, who are the professional consultants that I can exchange services with, who are the micro enterprises, and who are the small businesses. Micro enterprises, I look at ArtNet. Small businesses, I would look at some combination of E4All, which is actually micro enterprises, but within 3 years, most of them are growing into small businesses which I determine in and around the $3 million range. They still have a lot of upfront expenses, but what services can I provide? So when you're looking at how to tie to those folks, like corporate support, I buy a lot of things from Best Buy and Staples and a number of other stores. So when I'm looking at providing a service for the communities that these corporations serve, I can approach them, I'm willing to, and I approach them in a way to help them reach their audience, sharing corporate support. And many of them have outreach programs that you can apply to. Professional consultants, similarly. If you need services done, you can exchange what you offer for what they offer. In the last discussion, Hendrik talked about, using a photographer this way, a photographer and another person this way, as they look at building their business together. Yes. And same thing, nonprofit agencies, colleges, and so on. If you need work done that you don't have the skills for, nonprofit agencies and colleges and universities, they have training programs, and they have students that can provide those kinds of services. But what do you offer in exchange? So that's where some of the training programs giving them office hours, fellowships and/or internships. That's where those kinds of things come in. So, and don't forget public relations. When you are able to partner with people who are willing to work with you, let everybody know that they are helping you to do this, and you want to share that benefit. And early on, where there was a new group that was forming, and they had a lot of money for advertising, and they needed to partner with different organizations in order to get audience share, but they really had a hard time understanding why they needed to give away some of their advertising to the people who are participating and bringing them audience share. And you really need to share the credit for whatever events that you're putting on. So what you can offer partners and consumers, is it useful? Such as outreach or promotions. Those are the things that you want to consider. This is an example. Now, I have a piece in here that I want to play. If I don't have a lot of Q&A, I'm going to come back to. All right, it's Red Bull, but I want to go through the rest of the slides first. Okay. All right. So, leadership and solutions make money. What channels allow your customers to return seamlessly? So this is what I was talking about earlier. So on the left with products and services, and in the blue, you see the delivery channels. So for the product and services, the product or services is books, and the delivery channel would be Amazon. Workshops would be WebEx. Zoom is nice, but WebEx is actually, it doesn't drop calls. So if I'm teaching classes and I'm looking at working with a university, or I'm looking at working with overseas, I'm going to go with WebEx platform. If I create DVDs, I need to do an online venue, and I found one, but I can't remember the name. Cafe Press to make mementos is a good venue. Their prices are going up, so I might have to find another one. Do I want to go with membership, and how would I take my mobile courses online? I just recently did a class with the Irwin Jacobs Middle School with elementary school, with the Irwin Jacobs Elementary School, and so that would be considered a mobile class. I was there twice a week, and how would I adjust that? How would I change that? Would I train trainers to move that forward? So, and looking forward, so that's the product, service, and the delivery channel. And then the vertical market is, it's not hard to understand. Okay, so if I'm doing books or journals, which are more like magazines, then I'm looking at publishing companies, printers, all the people that sort of help me, you know, get my product to the marketplace. So that's your vertical market. So what percent of the people, what percent of the vertical market that I use can I sell to? Well, it might not make sense for me to get an ad in Market Basket. I might try it, but I'm not necessarily going to put a lot of effort there. I would put my first efforts into Best Buy, Staples, and I could show them with my receipts how much money we've been spending there. And that's what it would be one of my negotiation tactics. What is your solution to the people? So when you're looking at sales, it's not just about making money, it's what are you offering that they'll come back for. You want to learn to write. For me, they want to increase their income by learning a trade, enhance their self-esteem. And these are some of the offers: bags and notebooks to carry some of the materials, 24/7 ease of access for those who work odd shifts, and public relations is something that a lot of people don't have, particularly those who are small business owners and artisans. They don't really understand. Two things they don't understand is, one is accounting and the other one is public relations. And these stats were backed up by the National Statistics Census Bureau. Okay, so then how it gets presented is self-explained. What are their benefits? So they also need how it's provided, and then what does it cost you to provide the service from scratch? Okay, and so these are all things that you have to understand in terms of, and so this, I use a lot of charts. So but this will give you the answers that you need. So who will buy what, when, where, and how, and for how long? Okay, how do you anticipate growth, and how do you anticipate the needs or the changes of the consumers that you serve? One of the good examples in the last set was Hendrik talked about being having a large base who are Celtics fans, and he's looking at offering ministerial services with hip hop music for the generation that he serves. Something you just don't think of, but I know my kids would love it. I'm not going to get married again, and I'm not necessarily going to do that with hip hop. If I did get married again, although I'd consider doing a party, however, my kids, that's their generation. And I think that that's just a brilliant way of looking. And that hip hop generation, as they get older, he can probably predict, because he's part of that generation, how their needs are going to change. Do they have children? What do their kids need? How are they going to grow? What music do they listen to, and so forth. So investing in hardware, software, web applications, definitely. I can't tell you how much doing the work yourself saves you the money. You know, people say this is a lot of work. Yes, it's a lot of work. You don't have to do it all at once. Take 1 to 3 years. Do a little bit each day. I try to give myself 2 to 3 hours on the computer. If I'm doing 4 hours, I need to get up and walk around. Okay, so you can approach it in small bites. So how does your business fit into the vertical niche market? You want to be able to answer that. What needs of solutions allow you to define your market, fair share? How do people hear about your business? How do tourists come to experience your business? And are you growing your market share? Those are answers that you want to be able to get. So then this, we talked about last time, a website can sell while you sleep. Think about your study and research how audiences around the world can get to you. Make a product chart with cost versus performance, which you see. Monitor who purchases what and where and at how much. Establish a cost variance from the least to the most expensive in and among your product line, and use this to create a selling calendar for several years to come. All right, so this is a different subject. We're going to switch over a little bit. How promos and PSAs work. So these are actually selling events. So competitive intelligence is a win-win partnership alliance. Okay, so that's when you partner with somebody who needs the same things, and the two of you go after whatever it is that you want to do, and that can provide somebody else to help you with the work. It can provide somebody else, an array of services that you might not have, but they're also needs. So, that's what I would always recommend. ArtNet is a good example of having a win-win partnership alliance. Okay, then you want to regularly reintroduce, promote, and circulate your company's products and services, because if you don't, people will think that you've died. It's just a normal function of the human brain. People remember ID and materials, letterhead, business cards, postcards, emails, brochures, etc., and so on. Think one Coca-Cola, all right? For the past, I'm not sure how long they've been around, 75 years. What is Coca-Cola's color? Automatically, it's red and white. And what is their logo? It's the same as it has been. I think they've done minor changes to it. The red can is the newer piece, but even when it was just the bottles, their logo was the same. So you want to look at your product line similarly, so that when you advertise, people with a glimpse can see that that's you. And if you do buy advertisement, negotiate to have a story written if they publish anything. So I'm going to use Walmart, for instance. Does Walmart have an internal newsletter for their employees? They may. They have their flyers that they send out. Try to have publish a story put in that publication. If they don't, then buy a large enough ad where you can create a little paragraph that's gripping, that you think your customers need to hear in that ad space. Okay, there is more than one way to skin a cat. So you want to bring all of your promotional materials to conferences, workshops, open houses, etc. You also want to try to get your products and services on digital media. Ask questions. You can always ask your customers or students to help you if you don't really understand that. Local cable does free television training. You might take advantage of that. You want to match your website services with your address. A lot of folks use Gmail, but Gmail is not really a professional email address. If you want a professional email address, you want to have eworkstyle.org. My server costs me $150 a year. That's cheaper than a post office box, plus $15 for the name. There are but that's about I think that's about the average price. But most websites offer your email and your website, and then you can put your products there. That's how you begin to prepare yourself to sell 24 hours, because anybody can reach you from anywhere to come and get your products and services. And this is a slow roll leading up to a big impact. So you want to match your internet media, Google ads, advice, magazines, podcasts, and all of that to your website, and then post that there so that people can get connected and they understand how to find you. And any written materials, we're going to do postcards, because that's the easiest thing to carry around. To have your tags on there for where you showcase and where people can find you. Okay, so the last thing is to give back. All right, one of the ways that you can find new clients is by volunteering at events, festivals, summer programs. If you are looking at young people as some of your clients, don't be afraid to give back some time and or funds and or resources to build relationships with the constituency. One of the things that people will do out of reciprocal care is to come back and purchase from you if they know you volunteer or have supported the Little League. That's often how they'll introduce you. This is so-and-so, she supports, or he supports this or that. Okay. All right. Advertising venues to consider. So not all people use the online mediums. A lot of times people do social networks, but they don't buy from them. So what online mediums you consider. And this is just for fun. The first one is a bus ad. The second one's a gas station ad. The top of the taxi, the vertical billboard, and a bus. I've often thought about advertising on the bus, but then I was trying to think of, well, who am I really trying to reach? So what you got to do is figure out who your clients are, what their lifestyle is. Back when I was talking with the homeless vets, we did the billboards and the bus advertising. The booths didn't have the ads back then. That's a new thing. So where on the web do prospective consumers find inspiration? When do they shop for your type of product? How do they find you? Why do they purchase from you? Survey and measure to select ad space, and you want to repeat your ads minimally 15 times a year, or repeat your outreach minimally 15 times a year. So you want to get into all the holidays, because it takes 15 times for someone to remember who you are. All right, so how do you develop a press kit? This is a different subject. So in your press kit, as you give out to a Walmart or a major corporation or a news agency for an event that's going on, certain things go in that would be a part of your letterhead, your business cards, your flyers. So you want them to know that your website, your brochure, press release, announcement flyer, newsletter, annual report, and photos go in there. And I have a model that I can show you. And then some of the websites are GoDaddy and Weebly, and Vistaprint is really an inexpensive printer for printing some of those things. With Upham's Corner Main Streets, I have a press release at the end of this that I can show you how that works. So to create a press release, which is one of the most important documents in the press kit, I have a sample publication on the website, and I've offered the link on the last page. But the sample guideline on your stationery, and it has to be on stationery, you want your contact info with a title, a small title in caps for immediate release, and upper and lowercase, and then the title in bold caps, and then an opening paragraph begins with your city in bold with a hyphen, and I just put New Bedford because spelling it out is too long, and then 2 to 3 paragraphs with the priority details, purpose, frequency, and then I have some of those press releases are also available at the end. And then you close it so that they know it's over, and if you've had to email it, that they're not missing a page. So you put end, because in newsrooms, if you're faxing it or emailing it to a newsroom, somebody monitors the feed coming in, and they'll do a stack of them together, and sometimes those pages get mixed up. But if yours says end, which is also why you want everything on one page, if yours says end, they know everything is in there. Follow-up releases, you want to rework your press release and resubmit it from a different perspective. So if you're doing something big, 4 weeks, 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 1 week, you might do it 4 weeks, 2 weeks, and then 1 week, or call the day of, or 4 weeks, 2 weeks, and call the day of. But you definitely want to do it at least 3 or 4 times, because there's so much news coming in. Not all of it's important, unless something is huge and breaking. If you have something interesting going on that is important to the community, there's a very good chance that your event will get shown, will be given time. And you want to put the main reasons for your event in the first 3 to 4 sentences, because if you don't catch them in the first 3 to 5 sentences, they're not going to read the rest of it. So time and space, you're looking at print, radio, and television, web submission deadlines and requirements. You want to make sure that, okay, all newspapers have deadlines, so do radio and television, of when they require. So if they're saying that if you want this to go on at this time, then you need to submit it by this time, you make that deadline or you don't get in. All right, so that's it. That's the end. How'd I do? Oh, I overran, just like always. Okay, so this is the handouts website that I said that I would do. I'm glad we didn't do the video. It's on the slide. You can watch it on your own. But the video that's back, the Red Bull video here on YouTube, who offers what you're on the very bottom, it's an 8-minute video. This is one of the best examples of everything that we've talked about in terms of wrapping around your potential client and how to get involved with what they need. So I recommend you copy and paste it or just type it in and find it. It's still up on YouTube. I double checked. Okay, any questions?
That's what we're gonna get into now. I was looking in the chat. There are no questions in there. So if anybody has questions, you can just take yourself off mute. And Miss Kat Knudsen, you can go first because you raised your hand.
All right. This was a wonderful presentation, Paula. Thank you so much. I had a question about Mag Cloud. Could you describe that a little bit, please? A little bit more?
It is a magazine company. So you basically upload a PDF file, and then you create a website. There's no initial charge. You upload a PDF file, and it's interesting because their software will tell you what's wrong with your PDF. Okay, so if it's not for, let me give you for instance. If you upload it and the photographs are not 300 DPI resolution, it'll say you need to change photographs to 300 DPI resolution. It lets you see the sample if you're cutting too close to the edges, then it'll show you what it's going to look like after it's trimmed. Once you take care of all those things, very automated, very easy.
Is it designed to help you with printed, what's going to be printed magazines or also digital?
I would go, okay, so yes, it does printed and digital magazines. Okay. And it doesn't have to be a lot of pages, but it does have to be magazine format. Okay. And then it tells you what it'll cost you to print them, and then you can add on your additional price, and that's your web page. That's your link to the selling page on the website. Each of these magazines I have here, they all have MagCloud.
Okay.
They're all on Mag.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Anybody else with questions, you can just unmute yourself. Kat, you raise your hand again?
I had another question, but I'll let other people go first. Other people go first. All right. My question was, you were talking about going to colleges, who are offering trainings, office hours, and internships. Is there a particular method that you'd recommend? I've in the past
go early. Like the new semester starts in the fall. Some of those, typically the decisions to do it happens at the end of but just before graduation, but they don't know how they're going to do it. So if you go at the beginning of the season in the fall, in the early days before they really start to get into classes and try to talk to a couple of the professors, that's often because their students need experience. That's how that works.
As far as the paperwork for setting up the internships, is that on your end?
Also talk with the registration office around where do they keep their notices for internships, and what criterion those internships need to have.
Okay, thank you. That's it.
Paul Deare here. I would also suggest that you.
Are you muted? I can't hear you.
The chair of the department, or sometimes.
Honey, you're muted. Ask to unmute.
I thought I had.
Now we can hear you, but Paula has to mute herself now because it'll create a wicked echo.
Okay. He was suggesting, all right, so Paul was suggesting that you also talk to the chair of the department, because the department chair often has meetings with the teachers before, and that way you can hit all the departments in one fell swoop.
Thank you, Paul.
You're welcome. Anybody else? I'll take any question you got.
Showcase. Showcase the press releases.
Anyone else? Feel free to unmute yourself. We still have another 4 minutes or so, but if not, I will.
have
I'll
4
do the
minutes?
outro. We still have 4 minutes. Yeah. Ends at 2.
Oh.
1:56. We have another 4 minutes before I gotta do the outro, or I choose to do the outro, right? So
Oh, okay. So then I want to just very quickly see if this will work. All right. And I'll cut it off in the middle, but I really wanted this to be a part of the presentation. So the link should work directly from the slide. This did this to me once before. So this is the Red Bull piece.
In 2019, Red Bull sold 1 can for almost every person on the planet. But besides selling 7.5 million cans of a very sweet drink, they also run 2 Formula One teams, 5 professional football clubs, and 1 ice hockey team. Not mentioning events like the Crash Ice Challenge or the Wings for Life run. The thousands of athletes that Red Bull sponsors and the media production they run. Obviously, Red Bull does much more than selling an energy drink. But is all that just marketing? In the summer of 1982, the Austrian businessman Dietrich Mateschitz found himself suffering from jet lag during a business trip to Thailand. He tried a local drink called Krating Deng, which improved his jet lag substantially. Krating Deng can be translated to red gaur, the gaur being a huge bison from Southeast Asia. So it basically means Red Bull. Inspired by the magical qualities of the product, Mateschitz decided to bring the product home in the format of a brand new product category, the energy drink. He pitched his idea several times to Western investors, but got turned down because they didn't see a market for the product outside of Asia. Mateschitz was well aware that there was no market at the time, so he decided to create one. He was so convinced of his product that he invested $500,000 himself. He then teamed up with the boss of the Krating Deng manufacturer, who also invested $500,000 for the other half of the company. Next, Mateschitz adapted the formula and flavor for the European market and successfully launched the product in Austria in 1987. Because the drink was initially banned in Germany, Red Bull profited from the reputation as an outlaw brand. Many young Germans would cross the border to Austria to buy the banned energy drink, and Red Bull sold over 1 million cans in their first year. From Austria, it quickly spread across Europe, first to Slovakia and Hungary in 1992, and then to Germany and the UK in 1994. When they entered the US market 3 years later, Red Bull was selling over 1 million cans every day. Soft drink giants like Coke and Pepsi could benefit from deeper pockets, but they underestimated the strategic intent of Mateschitz and the upcoming brand. He created a new species of corporation that focuses only on the downstream activities of the value chain, while outsourcing operations such as production and logistics. That means that Red Bull itself is actually not producing the drink. Production and filling of the cans is completely outsourced, so Red Bull can fully commit its resources to selling the drink. Looking at the profit margin, that pays off. One of Red Bull's secrets to success is that they can charge a much higher price than their competitors. Red Bull makes each can for approximately 9 cents. The suggested retail price for a can is $3.59. The biggest customers like Walmart and big grocery stores pay between $44 and $48 per case of 24 cans. That means $1.87 per can, which is more than 20 times the cost of production. To create a market for his product, Mateschitz first focused on the club scene. It's really hard to imagine a student party without several packs of Red Bull on hand, since the company actively made use of student brand managers. Brand managers were popular university students encouraged to promote Red Bull on university campuses and to throw parties at different locations, supplied entirely by Red Bull. Volkswagen Beetles with larger-than-life Red Bull cans strapped to their backs showed up at beaches, at colleges, gyms, and even office buildings with free samples. Bartenders quickly learned that this new drink was a money machine.
Okay, I am going to close Red Bull.
That was really good though.
Yeah, and you can watch the rest of it
Oh, you know
on
I'm
your
gonna-
own, and the rest of it is just as good as the opening. But what it does that I think is important is it shows you how to market and how to reach out and how to be able to get the attention of customers, of consumers. So that Red Bull is on this who offers what you were missing slide, and
Mhm.
I'll send these out to Hendrik right after so that you can see it. Okay.
Excellent, excellent.
Yeah, the whole thing is only 8 minutes long, but it's filled with information, and I would suggest watching it several times, because while you don't have $1 million, I'm sure, because if you did, you wouldn't be here. However, there's a lot of really good ideas on how to do things in a small scale that you can grow. Okay.
Mhm. So I'll give you a quick story about something like what Red Bull did with the brand ambassadors, the student brand ambassadors. Was this guy kept going around to restaurants and saying, hey, I have this invention, you guys should use it. And the restaurants were like, no. So he just kept trying and trying and trying. So eventually he paid some students to go into several of these restaurants and be like, hey, do you guys have this invention? And they were like, no, actually, we just turned a guy down who was selling them. And they were like, well, that sucks. And they would leave the restaurant. He then hired some salesmen to go so that it wouldn't be the same face being like, haha, I got you this time, right? To sell the product. And they started selling like hotcakes. It was toothpicks.
Oh, wow.
You needed to manipulate the restaurant industry into buying toothpicks.
Yes,
So-
yes. It's not just the restaurant industry, it's getting people to change their thinking.
Yeah.
I'm watching a story on Channel 2 about toilet paper. The Scott brothers had a
Really?
hard time.
Selling
People
toilet paper.
using, wealthy people who were the only ones who had toilets in their homes, were using newspaper, leaves, fabric, and the pipes were getting clogged up. The Scott brothers invented the first toilet paper, and they couldn't get people to talk about it because it was too embarrassing during the Victorian period. So they went to a hotel and talked and had the hotel leave it in all the rooms, and as in the bathrooms, and instructed them that's what to use. Plus the hotel benefited by not having the pipes. And that's how it caught on. People started coming to the hardware store to try to find toilet paper.
That's brilliant.
Behavior, and that just shows behavior is hard to change.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, understanding who your target is and
Mhm.
understanding their behaviors is really key to being able to offer them something that they can use. Yeah.
All right. Closing remarks. At this time, oh no, we already did the question, so we're going to move on from that. I want to thank you all this afternoon for participating, registering, and joining us. This was a great session, as they all are. I'd like to thank once again and again and again Paula, Robinson, Deare for their hard work. Also, I would like to thank our funder, the City of New Bedford, for making this possible. Please be sure to join our, please be sure to visit our website, newbedfordcreative.org, and join our free creative directory. This is the list that we use to promote on our social media throughout the year. Make sure to add your events, galleries, exhibitions, or more to our calendar page that is linked to South Coast Today. We want our creatives to excel, and we are here to help. We have plenty of peer-to-peer sessions still left over for the rest of the year. Please join us at our next session. My email list is gold, part 2 with Allison Wells. I believe that I have already entered it into the chat, and all I have to do is hit enter, and there it is. And it looks like, yep, I got it in there. Excellent. Let me go back to my script. Lastly, the recording of today's session will be on our YouTube channel within the next week. You can find us on YouTube by typing @New Bedford Creative or just New Bedford Creative in the search bar, and you will find us. Have a great day, and thank you for your participation, everyone.
Thank you.